Once upon a time, Ursaring was about as scary as bears get, but as times have changed, Ursaring's now just a little brother, and there's not really much reason to use it in the competitive world. But I'm gonna bring glory back to the thing anyway and make it destroy some people. Stat-wise, it's got a huge base 130 attack, but other than that, it's frail and slow. What we can do though is take advantage of its ability Quick Feet. This gives it a 50% speed boost if it has a status condition, and traditionally people would use a Toxic Orb held item to pull that off. However, I'm gonna do something with a little more nonsense. Since Ursaring is now not fully evolved, this allows it to take advantage of the Eviolite held item, and it makes it have actual decent bulk with a 50% boost to each side. For reference, at level 50 with no investment at all, after Eviolite, Ursaring's defense stats are both 142, which is more bulk than a non-invested Arceus. Obviously with lower HP, but I mean still crazy. So I'm first going to set up a layer of Toxic Spikes on my opponent, and then I'm going to bring in Cinderace to court change them to my side. Now whenever Ursaring comes in, I get Quick Feet active while still getting the Eviolite benefit, which is essentially 3 boosts all at once, being speed in both defenses. We can then double our attack with a Swords Dance, and launch off the old delete button that is full power Stab Facade, which is 140 power while poisoned. We can throw in Terra Normal to ensure nothing wants to live it, and then there's also the option to click Trailblaze to get another speed boost if needed. It's got the choice of Close Combat, Earthquake, or even Crunch for coverage, and it's a little bit of a mission, but I think we can get Ursaring to wreck some stuff it should have no business playing against. Alright, look, the OG bear Ursaring, it has suffered a bit in recent times from some successive evolutions, and then there's Blood Moon. But more of the story is, we're going to show the OG some love, because Ursaring now can use Eviolite, at least, which is kind of cool. And with a little bit of nonsense behind it, we're going to see if we can't get it going. Shout out to the comment for making it happen. And before we jump into the video, I want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Surfshark VPN. I've said it before, but it still remains true. If you're using the internet in the year 2025 and are not taking advantage of a VPN, you, my friend, are in fact blowing it. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it's a service that provides an encrypted connection between the internet and your device, whether it's a computer, laptop, or smartphone. This essentially makes browsing the web a whole lot more safe, but it comes with quite a few other fun perks as well. One of my all-time favorites is the battle against price discrimination. When you're browsing the web for flights or hotels, websites like to use your data to basically show you higher prices they think you'll pay because they've seen you searching around. With the Surfshark turned on, websites have zero data on you, and you can save money that you didn't even know you were missing out on. You can unblock sites or streams that may not be accessible to your country in general. Plus, what's crazy is that one single Surfshark subscription gives you unlimited devices, so your entire household stays connected and secure. Lastly, they've got a product called Surfshark Antivirus. This gives you real-time protection against malicious apps or files anytime you download anything, and you can secure your devices by scheduling some regular scans. You can go ahead and click my link in the description and use code Haydunn at checkout to get an extra 4 months of Surfshark VPN, and there's also a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's really no risk of checking it out. And let's go ahead and get back into the battle. So I'm personally a really big fan of reverse Toxic Spikes. It's a pretty interesting strategy that you can build some really fun stuff around. I've used it in the past. I've done like Toxic Boost Zangoose. You should check it out if you haven't already. But anyways, my opponent decides to lead off with the Pelipper. We're going up against a very threatening rain team, and that's always going to be scary. But turn 1, as they're going to U-turn, what's funny is that it activates my red card. So like rather than them choosing what they're going to be able to switch into, Walnut is like, nope, you're going to bring in something random. And it's not necessarily how red card's supposed to be used, but as it draws in a Quagsire, I figure, hey, that's kind of fine. I'm just here to be a wall, to be a nut, and I'm here to party, but mostly to set up my Toxic Spikes. I do get up my layer, and as Quagsire does come in, it would have been really nice had this thing actually come in after the T-Spikes went up, because then I could have gotten a little poison before I switch him over. But at this point, I figured, look, Quagsire is surely going to go for Stealth Rock here, and that could help the Cinderace case in terms of being able to bring this thing in and then court change. But instead, they go for Curse, which I did not expect. Kind of forget that this thing can't even go for Curse. But now this Quagsire is looking pretty scary, I'm not going to lie. But the plan remains the same. I'm going to go for a court change here. I want to get those Toxic Spikes over to my side as soon as possible. Again, it would have been super nice had they gone for a Stealth Rock, because then I could put them Stealth Rock on their side and then grab my Toxic Spikes and grab a free Stealth Rock in the process. But it doesn't happen, and as I do court change, I change to normal type, but then boom, just get smacked by a wet tail, and that is going to knock out Cinderace. But honestly, not that big of a deal. I kind of did my job with the Cinderace. I got a couple of team members that benefit from the T-Spikes being on my side, and as much as I want to go Ursaring and try to get the thing going, I gotta try to find the correct opening for that. Now, as I decide to bring in the Milotic. We are going to come in, we immediately get poison, just one level of poison, which is important, but also that's going to activate my Marble Scale ability. And now as they go for an Earthquake with the +1, it doesn't do much. We get a 50% defensive boost just by being poisoned on the Milotic there, which is honestly pretty damn nice. And I'm just going to decide to smack that thing with my tail. Not as wet as theirs, but it does end up switching that thing out. I say, you know that curse you have? Go ahead and get the hell rid of that. I do not want this Quagsire to get out of hand. So it draws in a random opponent. We're just making them switch into random shit at this point, which is always fun. And it ends up bringing in Araquanid. Now, the thing about Araquanid is I can't really touch it in return. And Milotic doesn't really stay in that nicely here, so I decide to switch into Fortress. I'm kind of worried about them setting up Sticky Web. But in general, I mean, this Fortress actually doesn't have Rapid Spin anyway. But they go for a Liquidation. Does make sense. More of a probably offensive Araquanid here. In the rain, Liquidation hurts a lot. I'm fully defensive, so I do at least take it decently. But a second one is going to be able to take care of me. And that's about the first time Araquanid's going to be able to outspeed something because I am a slow-ass ball of steel. So down goes the Fortress. We're down a couple early. And now I got to try to get something going. So again, they have a lot of pressure on offense here. Ursaring does need that turn to be able to set up, so I realize I don't want to take a Liquidation. I will be able to live one of them, but I just, again, I'm going to try to find an opening for it. So instead, I decide to go into Scyther. I can at least threaten that thing out with a dual Wing Beat. While I can't Swords Dance, they end up swapping into the Pelipper, which is fine. I get a Technician boosted dual Wing Beat is going to do enough for a 2-hit KO here. Or I guess 4, whatever the way you're looking at it. So they realize they should probably conserve the Pelipper. It can come back in and set up Drizzle whenever they need to reset. So they decide to go into the Quagsire, which does make sense. Buddies, they're a defensive, easy punching bag switch in here. I do end up missing the dual Wing Beat, which absolutely busts my balls. And now this Quagsire is, honestly, the thing's an issue. I'm thinking, you know what, it's time. I'm just going to go into the Ursaring here. I figure I don't have a whole lot to lose. It can't Earthquake versus the Scyther. If it goes for an Aqua Tail, I take decent damage from it, but it shouldn't do too bad. And again, I am Eviolite, so I'm a little more bulky than you imagine. I come in, I get my free poison, and an Aqua Tail ends up missing, which is sick. That's why, you know, Aqua Tail, it kind of bites you in the ass. It does often miss. But that's amazing, because now I get this thing in for free, and now it's time to go Swords Dancing. So a lot of the time, Quagsire is going to be working with Water Absorb as its ability. It does have the option to be unaware, and if it's unaware, it literally just is blind to these swords. So as I go for the Swords Dance, they can now get an Earthquake off. Doesn't do much. Again, we're bulky bear out here. I do take some poison, and the clock is kind of ticking on getting Ursaring going here. But we're determined to get the bear to maul some people. So I go for the Trailblaze. Now that's not going to be able to knock the thing out, but it is going to give me a speed boost. And as we check it out here, they end up clicking Recover, which is kind of bad, but also feels kind of good here because they get a bunch of health back. And while I see how much damage the Trailblaze does, if I can get this Quagsire out of the way, especially after a Trailblaze and Quick Feet, we're looking faster than everything they have. And I figured this is a pretty good opportunity to bust out we're going to ice the boy out. We're going to go for the Terra Normal. And I don't know why it seems like this thing's diamond is way bigger than everybody else's, but now we're looking ridiculously blinged out here. And a nice little facade with that Terra boost should be enough to knock this thing out. And it turns out that Quagsire gets its face rearranged. So down goes the Sire. That's going to be their defensive wall, which is amazing. Now, another good benefit of running Quick Feet Ursaring is a lot of people will see this thing and they see facade, they see the poison, they're thinking guts, right? So then they're like, this thing has base 55 speed. How fast could it be? At this point now, as they end up bringing in the Hisuian Samurott, this is likely Choice Scarf. But as they expect to outspeed, I am going to be faster than a Choice Scarfed Samurott with that Trailblaze boost, and a Facade is absolutely going to destroy the thing. So that's a nice little unexpected KO, and Ursaring has finally got itself into somewhat of a game-breaking position. The Samurott was a huge threat. While the poison does knock us down to the point where we can take kind of just one more, it is nice because that just means one more thing is going to have to die at the hand of this bear. So in comes the Pelipper, and is going to set up the rain, but I'm easily able to outspeed, obviously, and a Facade is going to knock the thing out, and that is a dead Pelipper. So that's just an immediate quick 3 for the Ursaring. This thing, it can get out of hand, especially if they don't get early chip damage on the thing, and you can really, it can get crazy. So we do, sadly, go down to our poison, but any good captain goes down with the ship, and that is fine, because low-key, we've kind of busted a hole in the squad where we should be able to pull this one out. So here's the situation. Ursaring has gotten us into a 3v3 match. What they have left is going to be a Charizard. They've got a Quaquaval and an Araquanid. Now, as I go into my Milotic, it's just kind of my safest bet out of all of my options. They do go Charizard. And as I'm looking at it, I'm like, is this going to be a rain Charizard? Did I popularize the rain Charizard to the point where someone random is going to be using it? I am still going to click Scald because I don't know exactly what the thing wants to do here. But as they bust out the Terra, I'm thinking, yep, this is the Rain Charizard. And this has to be someone who saw the video. They pull out the Terra Water, which is unfortunate. But here's the thing, even expecting the fact that they still had their Terra, I click Scald anyway. And that's just because I know I should be able to take an attack from it. A Hurricane, we're barely able to live. It is going to take some Life Orb Chip, and I really just need enough damage on this thing to the point where Scyther can hopefully knock it out with a dual Wing Beat. Because I know that Scyther is going to be faster. We're 5 base speed points faster, and a dual Wing Beat with Technician is going to do a chunk, but I just need a little bit of help. So the Hurricane is going to get us to the point where we obviously going to go down to this next attack here, but that's fine. Milotic does its job in getting the amount of chip that we needed, because looking at what they have left, Scyther is feeling like the win condition. I'm faster than their final 2 Mons, and we have super effective dual Wing Beats. And considering they just used their Terra on Charizard, hopefully our little unevolved bug can do it to it, or do it to them, not to me. Anyway, it is Scyther time. I bring Buddy in, we got our boots strapped on tight. This Charizard is nearly at half, so that's exactly what we need. A dual Wing Beat, if we don't miss, should be clutch. It is going to be able to connect. We get a crit on the first one, it would have been able to knock it out with the second one. Down goes the Charizard. I will not be swept by a Rain Charizard today. So now, final 2 Mons. Going to be, again, Quaquaval along with the Araquanid. And the funny part is, neither of them really want to deal with Scyther. So the win condition is going to have to be our crazy slicey bug. So in comes friggin' Dancing Peacock. I'm thinking, please do not miss dual Wing Beat. Luckily, it does connect. And an unboosted, just Technician dual Wing Beat is easily enough to knock it out. So down goes, again, one of the scarier sweepers, especially with the rain. And now the final Mon being Araquanid, we know that, you know, it should hopefully go down to a dual Wing Beat. We didn't even need to bust out the Swords Dance. This Scyther's just sharp enough. And this is a pretty, honestly, a really nice little late game sweeper. My final Mon being Conkeldurr in the back. I go for the dual Wing Beat here. We do connect, and it is going to be enough to, again, just raw dog a knockout. So Scyther coming in clutch at the end. Little shared game there between the Ursaring and the Scyther. 2 of my unevolved Mons on the team just coming in and showing what they're made of. So that's going to be the end of the game 1. Honestly, pretty fun. This team has more potential than I kind of thought it was going to initially, but it's also really fun to use, and so we're going to keep it moving with game number 2. Look, if you stuck around this far into the video, you should go ahead and hit that like button for me. If you don't want to, also, that's fine. But this is another really interesting game against a pretty cool team here, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Alright, so this time my opponent's going to go ahead and lead off with the Pointy Bird. They got the Zapdos, and I switched things up a little bit. I have Revavroom, just because I like this thing, and it's shiny, and it's just a different gold steel guy. So I'm, of course, here to set up my T-Spikes turn 1. They're probably like, ah, man, now I'm going to have to deal with these toxic spikes. But when it really comes down to it, I want them on my side. So they end up clicking the Heat Wave. I'm max HP, so I take less than half from that, which is kind of surprising. But now it's time to go ahead and hit it with a little parting shot. I'm going to head out, dropping the offenses on the way out. And me and my little stone primitive wheels are going to get on out of here. So we've got this thing's offenses dampened pretty nicely, and it would be also pretty great if I could somehow get Ursaring in. But regardless, first of all, I need to go Cinderace. I'm looking at it like thinking, hey, you see those toxic spikes you got over there? I would like those. Those are for me. Now, they go for another Heat Wave, which is fine. The Great Flambino takes nothing from it. Now it's time to hit him with a little court change. We turn into the normal type, which is fine. And now the toxic spikes are over on my side. So it's good. We have the one layer that's all we need. It doesn't stack up damage. And they realize they probably don't have much business staying in here. As they click a Volt Switch, they can come back in, get rid of that parting shot. But now it's kind of fun. I get to see what they want to bring in. And this time it turns out to be Turtle. So as last time we were dealing with a rain team, now we've got some sun. So the weather is just unpredictable as hell out here. And also, Cinderace has no business really staying in here. So I'm going to go for the U-turn. And the moral of the story is I really need just some chip on this Torkoal. It's the most defensive thing they've got. It's kind of a problem. It's obviously their Sunsetter. But since we got our toxic spikes on our side, I figure my best bet is just to go right into Milotic. I don't know exactly what it wants to do. I'm thinking they probably just Stealth Rock, but also Milotic, even with the sun up, can do decent chip with Scald. It turns out they, however, clicked the Body Press, which is great because now my Marvel Scaled ass is taking nothing from that. This is about the thickest friggin' snake you've ever seen, and while we are poisoned, it does still, it gets us the benefit of also having leftovers rather than having to set it up with like our own Flame Orb or something to get that Marvel Scale. Regardless though, I'm going to click Scald. I want to see what they want to do here. If they have Solar Beam, they're going to click it. I can live at least one of them. But instead, I am met with a Palm Tree, and if I go for the Scald, just basically water the thing, and that's just that essentially heals it. But Look, Executor, this thing is a problem. In the sun, it's got chlorophyll. I'm thinking at least it's chlorophyll. Could potentially be harvest. But also this thing is very scary in terms of I know it's going to click growth here. If I know an Executor like I think I do, they're surely going to go for growth. Now in the sun, that's going to give them a +2 special attack boost rather than the 1. But I say I will be having none of that shit. I'm going to go ahead and Dragon Tail it out, which is amazing. This Milotic's role on the squad is just to kind of stir things up. Stop potential sweeps, just be bulky, and that's exactly what we're able to do there. It does drag back in the Torkoal, which is sick. While I don't have any Stealth Rock up, it's kind of unfortunate. I'm not able to punish all this switching, but again, this is kind of the matchup we essentially want, and I'm just like, well, I'm just going to click Scald. But then, as I was thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? They probably are going to go back to Executor or potentially Zapdos. It's the one other thing that comes in nicely here. So instead, I decided to click the Ice Beam. I figured no way they stay in. We saw they switched last time. They do end up bringing in the Zapdos, who is met by a pretty nice hard-hitting Ice Beam. Does do decent damage. Gets it almost to half. But honestly, that's the kind of chip that we need. It also probably has Roost regardless, but I mean, that amount of damage is going to put it into a spot where like now it's in range for a Facade from Ursaring potentially. So I also realize I do not want to leave Milotic in here. It's pretty valuable, so I don't want to necessarily just leave it in to just be Thunderbolted and zapped to death. So instead, I'm going to go right back into Cinderace. The problem with Cinderace switching in here is I probably don't deal with whatever it does nicely, and it turns out they could have gotten a kill with the Thunderbolt, but they just Volt Switch. Which sucks. Again, not having Stealth Rock up on their side is a bit unfortunate, but this draws back in the Executor, and now I have a kind of a fun situation here. Now look at this. I'm going to click Sucker Punch. I figured they're probably not going to want to Growth, considering they can just die to a Pyro Ball. And then I'm thinking also they're probably going to click a Psychic move here, so I'm going to go for the Sucker Punch. Now they do pull out the Terra Fire, just going to cover for the chance that if I do click the Pyro Ball, they're going to be able to take it. But as I Sucker Punch, I do of course turn into the Dark type, and now I'm really hoping that they click Psyshock, because as I do turn into Dark, I get a Sucker Punch off, and they click the Psyshock, which is honestly sick as hell. So now it does not touch me. Luckily for us, I can get one more Sucker Punch off, and that ends up knocking it out. So that Executor literally could not have been shut down harder, and not only that, but they waste the Terra, which is incredible value. So while the Cinderace is on the squad, mostly just to court change the Toxic Spikes over to my side and then die, we get some great value out of it, and we're feeling pretty proud of the bunny here. So as they decide to bring in Flygon on the Revenge switch in, there's one thing I need to know about this Flygon. If it's Choice Scarf, I need to scout that out right now. So instead of going for Sucker Punch, I decided to click U-Turn, and the reason for that is because as I see that I outspeed, that is very important to know that means that thing is not Choice Scarf. So that kind of dictates on like what I need to do with Ursaring, if I need Trailblazes or what. But as I go first, that reveals obviously it's not Scarf, and who switches in here pretty nicely is going to be Milotic, depending on what it wants to work with. But they just go for a little pivot here. They're just U-turning and turning around all over the place. Of course, they get the benefit of now being able to bring in whatever matchup they want on Milotic, and it does turn out to be the Heracross. So as this thing comes in, he's got wings flapping. Now I feel like you always see this thing just standing there, but for whatever reason, this buddy's hovering. But I'm at below half, and Milotic not looking great. I could potentially recover. And I was kind of worried about this thing being Choice Scarf also, but it turns out it is going to activate its Flame Orb. It's going to get that Guts boost, and this thing is very scary, but I'm also not that afraid of it. I'm like, if I can just get some chip, I'm just going to be faster with Quick Feet Ursaring, but as they click Trailblaze, that's going to change up the dynamic a bit. That's going to give them that +1 speed boost. Now it's basically got a built-in Scarf. As I go for the Scald just for the chip damage, now I'm at the point where Ursaring would need not only Quick Feet, but a Trailblaze to outspeed it. So that kind of changes, it switches things up a little bit and makes this Heracross a whole lot more scary. The good thing is it's at least burnt, taking some chip. I got a Scald off just for some damage, but at this point I figured I'd probably just let them Milotic go down. Now they are going to finish me off with the Facade, but yeah, so it takes care of the Milotic. Now we've got a decision to make and got to figure out how to knock this thing out. It's going to be faster than everything I've got. With a Guts boost being burnt and a Facade and like Mega Horn in close combat, this thing, it's very, very scary. But I realized one thing is if I can essentially just kind of waste Cinderace here, I can go for a Sucker Punch. It's going to do enough chip to the point where then I've got two options for priority in the back to pick it off. So I am going to click Sucker Punch. While it's not going to be very effective, it's going to hopefully just do enough damage paired with that burn to the point where then I can go Scyther, and then a quick attack from Scyther should do it. And that's a roundabout-ass way to kill a Heracross, but I mean, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So down goes the Cinderace. It does take some more burn chip, and it's looking pretty likely that a quick attack's gonna be able to do it. So Scyther is my best bet. Other than that, it's Mach Punch. with a Conkeldurr, which is an interesting guy. But I decided to go Scyther. A little Scyther versus Heracross action is a classic rivalry. But I'm going to pull out the Terra Normal and do my best, like, great value Dragonite impression. Who needs Terra Normal Extreme Speed when you've got Terra Normal Quick Attack? Quick Attack is at least going to be boosted by Technician. So now with the stab, a Quick Attack should surely be able to kill. And this thing could have gotten a little out of hand. Guts Heracross, very spooky. But that's going to be able to take care of it. We are the superior bug. And hell yeah, Scyther, this thing's nice as hell. So, now when the revenge switching, they can go right back into freaking Torkoal, man. This thing has still taken literally no damage. And, well, I mean, not literally, but you know what I mean. Buddy's healthy as shit over there. And I realized this, since I'm Terra Normal, I should be able to live one attack from it. And I'm like, depending on how this thing's built, I can hit it with a dual wing beat. It's probably going to be able to live it regardless, but a body press nearly destroys my ass, and I'm like, well, alright, I'm just going to click the dual wing beat now. There's a chance if we get a crit on one of them. Sadly, judging by the damage, it's not going to be enough to knock out. But it does do one thing, and that is puts it in range to where Ursaring in the back should be able to have a much easier time than we would. So, one more Lava Plume going to take care of the Scyther. I probably did not need to go for that Terra Normal. I just figured it was kind of a nice insurance policy, and I don't think anything else needed the Terra, so I decided to commit it, and Scyther goes down, but now guess what time it is, baby? It's Ursaring time. This thing does need to come in at the right time, and this honestly feels like a pretty good spot. So, they've got 4 Mons left, but knowing that they probably just click a body press here, I can live that easily. I'm Eviolite, I'm about thick as hell, and I can get up a nice little Sword Stance. That's going to be very clutch. Now, as they go for the body press, does do a bunch. Body press Torkoal, scary. And then after the poison damage, I'm like, alright, I'm again on a bit of a timer here, but I got my Sword Stance up. And considering they've got 4 Mons left, nothing wants to deal with the bear, especially after a Swords Dance. We're looking very scary. So, as I go for a Facade here, look at this. In comes Toxapex. Hits me a little peekaboo, and now you get hit with these claws, baby. I go for the Facade. We end up getting the crit, which is incredibly clutch. I think that had a chance to kill there, depending on if it was max HP and defense or not. If it wasn't max defense, I don't think the crit mattered. Regardless, it takes care of the Pex, which is sick as hell. And it wasn't Rocky Helmet. So look, the game goes on. And now as they go Flygon, since we saw this thing wasn't Choice Scarf earlier, I can outspeed, which they probably did not expect. They probably just thought I was Guts. Boom, surprise bitch. We can Facade it right to the Shadow Realm. And that is a dead Flygon. So now we're just running through the rest of their team. And as that last poison is going to bring us down to 6, we know we only have 1 more attack left in us. But they've only got 2 Mons left, and something is about to die to a Facade. So, I mean, we've kind of done what we needed to do. In comes the Torkoal. A Facade is going to be able to take care of it since we got that good chip on it, and that is a fainted-ass Torkoal. So, as we sadly again are... Hey, it's actually kind of nice. No one gets the satisfaction of taking care of this Ursaring, but he's going to do it himself. So, I mean, it's kind of satisfying. Now, their final Mon is going to be Zapdos. So, looking at the 2 I've got left, I decide I have to go Conkeldurr first. I need to get that Toxic Spikes on me because I'm actually choice-banded Guts Conkeldurr. Most of the time, this thing needs to be running a Toxic or Flame Orb to get that Guts. But since that item slot is free, now I'm choice-banded with a Guts boost. And this Zapdos has another thing coming. They end up clicking the Hurricane. Raw Dog and the Hurricane in the sun is definitely going to miss. And I'm able to break through, get a Facade off. And choice-banded Guts Facade is... This thing is very scary, dude. Just having Guts in general, but then you throw on a choice band... Nothing wants to deal with it. Mach Punch is crazy on the thing. Facade is able to do it for us there because I don't have Ice Punch. But that's going to be the end of the game, and we just snuck past on that one. Honestly, really interesting matchup there. So, look, I'm having myself a good time with the team. And so that's going to bring us into one more bonus match, just to see if we can get it going one more time. We are going up against another pretty crazy-looking squad. And without any further ado, let's get into it. So this time, as my opponent decides to lead off with the Fortress, I am going to lead off with also the Fortress. We got ourselves in a Spider-Man meme situation, and we're also both gold. We're looking at each other like, damn, that guy looks good. So here's the thing about this matchup. What sucks is that while they go for spikes, I do not have Rapid Spin of my own, but I need to be able to set up my own Toxic Spikes on them to be able to court change it to me. But if they decide to Rapid Spin them away before I can do that, we're going to have a little bit of an issue. But I figure it's probably fine. And now I'm just going to click Volt Switch. But check this out. They end up clicking Toxic Spikes of their own. And I'm like, well, that kind of changes the whole dynamic. If I can get someone to set up Toxic Spikes on me, that just shows that I'm going pretty well in terms of being incognito on what I'm trying to do. I want Toxic Spikes on my side. So that's actually perfect. I'm like, well, hell yeah. And also, I mean, Cinderace still comes in here. And then as I'm looking at it, while I would try to generally take my Toxic Spikes from their side and put it over here, I'm just going to still click Court Change anyway, because First of all, I'm thinking they probably swap out here. I'm a fire type staring at, you know, the most allergic to fire guy out there. And it turns out fella's got absolute balls of steel, quite literally, because it is a ball of steel. But they end up staying in and go for another layer of spikes. Now, it's funny because now we have the exact same setup. They have a toxic spike and a spike, and I do also. So it's like, hey, I mean, I guess that's a fair trade. I now decide to go for the pyro ball. I figure, hey, if you're gonna play stupid games, you're gonna get stupid prizes, and the prize turns out to be some fiery death. So that is gonna be a dead fortress, which is great. And hey, look, we've got kind of what we needed to do. I also got a layer of spikes on their side this time, so you know, I'll take it. So at this point, they go into the Glitchxer. Now it does get poisoned, which is sweet, and I also realize that I'm gonna get destroyed by something, so I go for a U-turn here. I figure maybe Cinderace has some value later on, and as I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what? I also don't really have much that wants to switch in here, depending on what they click. Now, as I go Milotic, I was a normal type Cinderace, so I figured they probably Aura Sphere, and I'm like, can I even take 2 of those after spikes? Probably not, but I have a ton of special defense. Sadly, though, as they go for that Aura Sphere, I'm feeling like that's Choice Specs damage. This freaking Pistol Shrimp over here has got to be wearing some glasses that I just can't see, and that just does a lot. So it's over there we're both kind of taking some poison chip, and after mine, I figure, yeah, you know, another Aura Sphere is sadly going to be able to take care of me. So that's exactly what they do. It's got the Mega Launcher, the Choice Specs. Needless to say, that thing hurts, and Milotic just goes down for nothing. So while I lose my main kind of easy punching bag switch in, now we gotta start making some moves. And I'm looking at things thinking, who switches in here? Guess who does? The boy Ursaring. This time it kind of feels like I switched this thing relatively easily. And that's just because while I come in, I get poisoned. I'm gonna be able to outspeed with the Quick Feet. And my main thing is, like, they should be able to outspeed if I wasn't Quick Feet. So I'm thinking maybe they think I'm Guts. While I cannot go for a Swords Dance, what I can do is just Facade. Now the reason why I don't go for a Trailblaze there is because with Quick Feet, looking at their team, I don't need it. I should be faster than everything they have, barring any potential Choice Scarfs in the back. So I'm able to grab a kill on the Glitchxer, which is great. And now we get to see what we can make happen with the Ursaring. So in comes Toxicroak, and this thing is going to soak up the Toxic Spikes, which is probably why they switch into it. I'm kind of worried about a Sucker Punch, but then I'm like, I can live that easily. I go for a Facade, I outspeed, and they do not go for a Sucker Punch. That is going to absolutely decimate the Toxicroak. And that's a quick 2 for the guy. Chalk up we're getting a little kill streak going with the Ursaring. So we're of course taking the poison damage. It doesn't really matter. We're fast. We have Facades up. What we do not have is a Swords Dance, sadly. But look at it. As they end up going into Scyther, they're also working with their own Scyther, which is sick. But I'm just going to click a Facade here. I don't know what this thing wants to do, but I know I'm going to get huge damage with it. It's not going to quite be able to knock it out. It does reveal it goes for a Fury Cutter. And that is interesting. I'm thinking maybe it's like a Metronome, like Fury. I've done something similar with the Cleaver in the past. But moral of the story is, I am faster than a Scyther. Base 105, all I need is Quick Feet. With the Jolly Nature, to be able to outspeed. That thing could have gotten a little out of hand had it been able to just spam Fury Attack. So that's going to be able to take care of it. And that was the one thing I was worried about, needing a Trailblaze to outspeed, but we didn't even need it. Now we got a UAV going with the Ursaring, and this thing is honestly sick as hell. So the one fella that is, of course, a problem, literally always, is freaking Umbreon, man. This thing is at full health. They got 2 Mons left, but I figure, you know what, I've gotten this far with Ursaring, and while without a Swords Dance, I don't think I'm going to be able to grab a kill with the Facade. I'm still going to bust out the Terra Normal because, look, we got one goal, and that is to just get this Ursaring to pop off as much as humanly possible. So while I go for the Terra Normal, I'm going to boost up that Facade, and that's going to be my highest damage output here. And these things, it's gonna take a lot of damage, and unless it clicks Moonlight here, that would not be ideal. But I get huge damage. Turns out they do click the Foul Play. That's going to be able to take care of the Ursaring. And I just straight up Terra there in the name of getting this Ursaring to just output as much damage as physically possible. So while we get a huge chip on the thing, that's pretty nice. We do go down. Ursaring sadly does not die to its own poison this time, but we get enough damage to the point where I'm like, now guess what? Now you got to deal with a Guts boosted Choice Band Conkeldurr. And the bad news for them is that in the back, all they have is going to be a Lapras. So they're kind of backed against the wall here to where they can't switch into Lapras. And I can freely just go for a Drain Punch here. And while they are able to outspeed, since, you know, Mo is veiny and slow over here, I can just go for the Drain Punch. Even if that thing's at full, a Guts boosted banded Drain Punch, it's going to be able to take care of it. We end up sucking up as much health as we can. We get back to full health. And that's a dead Umbreon. Honestly, the least struggle I've had against an Umbreon in quite a while, and that feels pretty good. So again, final mon is going to be the Lapras, and obviously this thing does not enjoy a Drain Punch right to the neck. But also, they do still have a Terra. So I figure, you know what, if whatever they've got, they're probably going to have to go for it. If it's going to be Terra Ghost, we're going to have a little bit of a problem here. A Terra Ghost would be actually relatively bad. But they're going to pull it out, and it turns out to be Terra Ground. So, you know, probably Terra Ground there for Electric. But, I mean, now that it's got the Earth on its head, it's no longer going to be a super effective Drain Punch, but it's still going to hurt. Now, check it out. They go for a Dragon Dance. They figure they need all the momentum they can get to maybe be able to bring the game back, and it's gonna at least hopefully help them out. But a Drain Punch comes through, and that still just knocks it out. Again, this Conkeldurr is a damage machine, and we end the game on the full health. That's gonna take care of the Lapras, and that's gonna do it. So again, I thought that was a pretty fun match. This team has kind of better potential than you'd expect. It is a little bit ridiculous going with the reverse Toxic Spikes, but it's really not that crazy of setup. I mean, it's 2 moves, and then all of a sudden you have almost my entire team benefits from that. So that's going to do it for the video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate the support. I love you all, and I will catch you next time. Peace out.